908-284-0500 for more information about any of our programs or to join. NAMI Hunterdon, the voice for mental health in Hunterdon County.
One of the biggest decisions in your lifetime is buying or selling a house. Choosing a realtor with strong client communication, technology, and marketing skills will dramatically improve your chance of success. That's why Hunterdon and Somerset's residents rely on Joe Peters. Joe believes his clients deserve a smooth and seamless experience, not a roller coaster ride. As a Coldwell Banker sales associate with 20 years of experience, he's helped hundreds of people to achieve their goals and dreams, no matter where they were in the buying or selling process. Joe accomplishes this by approaching every transaction from a business perspective. Initially, he tries to fully understand your goals and dreams and make them his own. Then he takes the mass amount of data that's available and distills it down to a few understandable action points. And finally, he controls the entire process through technology and marketing. The end result to you is a smooth, rewarding customer experience. Let Joe show you how to take his professional expertise and put it to work for you. To contact Joe, go to jpeters.com or call 908-238-0118.
So it's Joe Peters with Janice Kovach and John Higgins. Janice is mayor of Clinton Township. She's been the mayor there since Clinton Town. I got it backwards already. I'm going to flunk.
That's okay.
We can trade, though.
No.
They're trading. And John is mayor of Clinton Township. Janice is mayor of Clinton. Janice has been mayor since 2016, it looks like? 12. I've copied. Oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong. You're right. Of course, you're right. And John has been mayor since?
2015.
Okay. And you're running again, Janice, this year?
I am, yes.
Great. And John, you're not up yet?
No, I'm up. I would be up next year.
Okay. And, well, I won't ask you to pre-announce. Yeah, it depends. It depends. I used to sell software for a living, and they used to say, does it do this? I said, it's like old people. It depends. There's so many things that go into it. So these are two towns that are contiguous or touch each other. Clinton Township surrounds Clinton on three sides. The only side that it doesn't is Union Township, I believe. Mm-hmm. And they're much different in size. First of all, Clinton is a town, and Clinton Township is a small municipality. What is the difference? Does it matter does anybody know that lives there?
Definitely not anybody that lives there. Anyone who lives in Clinton thinks that they belong to just Clinton. I think New Jersey is just unique because it created 565 municipalities.
Right.
And each one of them is its home rule, it's its own little entity. But for the residents, we try to keep it so that it's really
it's not too different. We both have elected mayors.
Right.
There is a subtlety, though, which we discovered some time ago. Mayors can typically marry people, with the exception of mayors in townships.
Interesting.
Really?
Don't ask. Nobody knows why, but when you read the Faulkner Act, which determines many of the forms of government in New Jersey,
we learn something every day.
We're left out.
We learn something every day.
That's probably why I get all the Clinton Township weddings.
Yeah.
And we have an undertaker that can marry you. DJ is.
Yes.
Really?
So, yeah.
He is a ministry. Well, so does Ruth Ann.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Unbelievable.
So I remember we went to they have a group that DJ is the president of that looks over senior people's financial affairs when there's nobody left to help them. And the fellow who was the attorney that was in there, and the fellow from our church too, Father.
Guardianship one-on-one.
That's it.
Yes.
The Monsignor from Immaculate Conception was on the board there as well. And one of the attorneys was saying, is it a little conflict of interest that the guy that's on the ambulance is also the undertaker? I never thought of it that way. So population-wise, and I pulled a few statistics. You guys know it, but the people listening probably don't. I really didn't know these numbers until I listed it. It looks like Clinton Township's about 5 times more people than Clinton, roughly.
Yeah, about 14,000.
Yeah, it's
right on the border.
13.5 at the last, and 12.8 has slipped a little, as most of the towns did. And then Clinton Township's 2,700 slipped to just 2,697.
Yes.
So that was in 2016. So 1.4 miles for Clinton, square miles, 33.8. So Clinton Township is a lot less dense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I say that in a nice way. I mean, dense means different things to different
Sprawled.
people. More sprawled, yeah.
About 4 square miles of our township is water.
Water
Yeah.
with Round Valley and,
Yeah. A little bit of Spruce Run.
wow, I didn't realize it was that many miles square. So what percentage of 33? It's better than 15% then.
If I remember, we're down to about 30 square miles when you count land only.
I had just to take a quick diversion. The fellow who wrote The City That Disappeared, The Town That Disappeared Overnight came on about 2 months ago, and we talked about the building of Spruce Run. I met him in the library system last year, and they now he lives in Maryland, and his other partner lives in Minneapolis or something. It's an amazing story. It contradicts everything you think you knew about it. He says people who say they can see church steeples don't know what they're talking. They leveled it to the ground and waterproofed it so the water wouldn't seep in. Everything was taken out before it was built. And it was a whole story that I learned a lot about. I've only been here 20 years, but I still feel like a novice as to some of the history of what's going on.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, that goes way back. I think
Yeah.
Clay McEldowney's father did the surveying, I know for Route 78, and I think he also did some of the survey work for Round Valley.
And it was built to be a reservoir for Newark because of the drought in the
Mhm.
50s. It was built in the 65. Remember when it was built? We never put a pipe in it for water to come out. And I said, well, I thought there's a pipe between Round Valley and Spruce Run in case Spruce Run's running low. And he said, not to my
No.
knowledge. He
No.
said, they're not connected.
No, not at all.
The lift station's over, on the river.
Hamden Road,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, what is it, a 5 or 6 foot penstock or pipe ends up running up to the reservoir to fill it.
we were related to the, Russ Casper died, but Marilyn and Russ, his wife, are cousins. And he told us that the pipe was big enough you could drive a truck through it when they built it. That sounds exaggerated, but
Yeah, I thought it was more like 60, 70 inches, somewhere in
Okay.
that range.
Yeah.
and it's only for like 2 months a year they can pump the water up out of that.
Yeah, they're very careful about that. Do you know what a ratchet or a demand charge is?
Yeah.
Well, New Jersey is a 6-month ratchet, so if you turn on those pumps, you end up paying that demand charge, and those pumps are 1,000 horsepower, if I remember. You pay that demand charge for 6 months, so they don't turn them on frequently, but when they do, they
Right.
run them for a good period of time to get the level up.
Well, and we did the same. I was always in retail stores. We opened huge retail stores, like bigger than Walmart around the country. And we did hypermarkets for Carrefour out of Paris and Leclerc out of Paris. And they would go aisle by aisle, and it would take like an hour and 20 minutes to get the store to light up and then turn down just so that it didn't hit those peaks. I mean, it's a whole science to that. So, from several conversations that we've had separately and together, it really seems like the two towns get together really well. Was it always that way?
So I've been doing this for about 8 years, and one of the things that's important to me is working well with my neighbors. So Kevin was mayor when
Yeah.
I first became mayor. You know, when I reached out to him, we'd had a couple of joint meetings on, depending on what the issue was. I think Transbridge was probably the last one. And then when you became mayor, you know, we probably spend a little bit more time, but you have that ability to spend more time.
Yeah, it's easy to, you really should get along with your neighbors.
I would think that.
And
It's not political. It really is about the
not at the local
communities.
level, yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems more than 10 years ago, there was a Home Depot argument between the two communities. I mean, that's the only thing I can remember that was friction since I've been
Well,
here.
Well,
You go
that
ahead.
so there was the hotel argument because we have a piece of property on the opposite side of 31 that's part of the town of Clinton.
Right.
And when the hotel was going, and that's right in front of, was that Deer Meadow over there?
Yeah,
So the Deer Meadow residents were not happy. Obviously, no one wants a hotel
Right.
in your backyard. I get it. That happened to be the appropriate place for us to be putting it. I don't remember the Home Depot, unless that was the Home Depot on the Mobus. But the town of Clinton residents didn't want the Home Depot either. So
Okay.
that wasn't unique to just Clinton Township.
Yeah,
I don't think I was living here long enough to understand what it meant, but
Yeah.
I knew it should, like,
I think
nobody
nobody
wanted.
really wanted it. There was a potential for it to be located on Route 22, I think, and Petticoat. And the town actually put a a limit in the commercial zone as to how large the floor plates could be. I think it's 32,000 and, 284 feet or something like that.
Right.
Which is way too small for a Home Depot or typical big box store.
Right.
I was on a corporate account that called on Home Depot in the late 90s. And at that point, they were opening a store every 23 hours, which
Oh, my
was
goodness.
mind-boggling.
That is.
It was worldwide. Now it's come a long way back from there,
Yeah.
Lowe's and lots of other things. But so, speaking of Mobus, I see a sign up, apartments coming. Is that?
Condo, or townhouses rather. So the Mobus property, which is 28 acres, was part of our affordable housing settlement.
Okay.
And initially, the property owner had put out a website before even having discussions with the town of Clinton with 247 garden apartments and 5 pad sites. Not realizing that because it was farmed, they were not able to get within the 300-foot buffer of the South Branch, which runs through the property.
Okay.
With that, part of the discussions, we really had them look at it, and we pressed them on it, and it will be 56 high-end townhomes that will be up there, for sale townhomes.
Okay. All
Similar
free
to-
market.
All regular market.
And there's some set aside for affordable?
The set aside is going to be in town, over by the old Agway property.
Isn't
There
that
will be 10
interesting?
age-restricted units there that are married to that particular project, because the Mobus property has no access to Center Street or to town. You have to go in a car, get out on 31, drive
Right.
around. So what we were trying to do is, if we were going to have affordable and we wanted the age-restricted, being in the middle of town was the best place to put it. So that was the agreement that was finally settled on. So we went from 247 and 5 pad sites to 56 and 3 pad sites.
And will it be age restricted and income restricted in town, or just age restricted?
They'll be affordable age-restricted.
Age restricted,
Yes.
so that's what I'm considering. So interesting. It seems to me we're overdue for expansion, but within Clinton, you're almost at the 4 walls.
You would think that would be the case, but no, there will be about 300 total new units coming
Wow.
in with this affordable.
So 30% of the town could be affordable eventually?
No, 30% increase in housing stock.
Okay.
Of that, just under 20% of that would be affordable. Actually 20%, 60 units will be affordable.
Okay. And I know you mentioned Agway, you mentioned the old A&P site the last time we met, and then you mentioned this.
The
new-
Mobus.
Mobus, it's called, okay. And John, you have free guys. I see Beaver Street is gangbusters out
That's
there.
moving along. I'm hoping next spring we might see occupancy.
How many units will that be?
Those are 66 units, and as it happens, they generate about 132 credits.
And that's all affordable?
It's 100% affordable. That particular development didn't cost us anything because they were successful in obtaining very favorable financing.
Okay. And then you said there'd be one on Alton?
There's actually an additional, if I remember, 4 developments. The next one up, in terms of priority, already has preliminary planning board approval, and that's an 84-unit development on Route 31 South, about halfway in between the regional road where the high
Right.
school is and, I always forget, Allerton.
Okay.
And that's a 6 acres, sort of a set aside in the middle of about 240 acres of preserved land.
And how much will be affordable?
100%.
100%, all
Yeah.
rental affordable.
Correct. That's why it's our second priority, and they're applying for financing. The deadline is September 12. We would expect to hear if they're successful in getting the better financing or not, right toward the end of the year.
And then there was Alton, was your third the last
No,
time?
that's pretty much our last place. I'll explain.
Well, that's probably good.
I'll just roll through it. There's a third 100% affordable project, and that'll be on the northbound side of Route 31 on a 40-acre parcel that Bob Lecomte owns. And that'll be about 89 units on about an 8-acre set aside. And again, the intent was to disturb existing neighborhoods to the greatest degree possible. So these two are sort of enclaves within a park or a preserved piece of land, or what will be a preserved piece of land in the case of the Route 31 North project. Those are the 3 100%ers that we have, and as I said at the council a couple of times, They're nice and compact, but they do present a financial risk to the town. If you don't get, there are two kinds of financing, 4%, 9%. The 9% financing, which we were able to get on Beaver Avenue, pays for about 70% of the project costs. The 4% tranche only pays for about 30% of the project cost. So there's a 40% delta between the two. The project on Marukian, they applied last year and were not successful. Remember, we have about 280 or 90 towns that have settled. So most of those towns are competing for a very small number of these very favorable housing grants.
Right.
So they're reapplying this year. And if they're not successful, we'll have to bond the difference. Beyond these 100% projects, we also have a large one above the train station in Annandale. That's 400 units with a 26% set aside for affordable. There will be no traffic imposition on the village of Annandale. We're not going to open up a vehicular road access down into the village. All that traffic will come out on Petticoat eventually, or going into Highbridge.
So there's never a traffic impact study done in conjunction with affordable housing, from my understanding. The way there would be with normal developments.
Well, there was a rough traffic study done, so both the town and the developer have an inkling of what the traffic improvements would be. There would have to be some improvements at the Route 22 Petticoat interchange.
Right.
And there's some curves on the access road, Reformatory Road going down to Petticoat that are not quite up to standard. So that road gets modified a little bit. But the first action there is to enable that to happen, since we've declared that we're conforming to the Highlands Regional Master Plan. That area has to be designated as a center, and we're in the midst of working with Highlands to understand the boundaries of the center, and which gives you some relief on the Highlands requirements in terms of density, impervious coverage, and septic, and that sort of thing.
But that system would have to be a septic.
Pardon me?
That would have to be a septic-based development then?
Yeah, there's insufficient capacity for the development of that size. And because the streams will be C1 that border that particular parcel, it's about a 155-acre parcel, they're being designed, the on-site septic, for instance, would be designed in conformance with trout production stream standards. So it'll be a high-performance package plant. And in a funny way, it kind of works because you're pumping out of a particular Huck 14 aquifer, and then you're putting it back into the same aquifer. And obviously with the standards required of a septic system discharging into surface waters close to a C1 stream, what comes out of that plant will be very, very pure, and it'll be an appropriate temperature besides.
So I'm thinking all of this is happening within about a mile of where 31 and 78 cross. So it's got to have, in total, a big impact on traffic. There's just going to be, I don't want to be judgmental, but there probably aren't as many cars per family from the people that are
That is correct.
Okay, so that helps a little, but there's still going to be a lot more cars than usually come into the area.
Certainly there'll be some more cars, but remember, for the 100% projects in particular, part of the financing is very, very competitive. It's scored on a 95-point scale. The Beaver Avenue project hit, was a perfect score. And one of the elements that goes into generating that score is adjacency to public transportation. So the Beaver Avenue project, if you walk across the street, that's the Wall Street lot. If you walk to the train station, 4 or 5 blocks, that can get you over to Somerville, right in the center of Somerville, where there are a reasonable number of jobs, and points east of there. Similarly, for the 400-unit project up the hill from the Annandale train station, I do envision a vehicular access road there for emergency vehicles.
Right.
It's a long run around for the fire department if there's
Most
a problem.
developments have a chain.
Yeah, so I would envision something like that which would also provide pedestrian access down to
That would be good.
the station.
So getting to the Annandale train station, I mean, I worked in New York when I first came here, and there was just no way that train could get me to work and back. I'd spend more time in a train than at work.
That's why they
So-
take the bus.
Yeah, so Carol Bianchi had the transportation people talk to us at ELC in Somerville a month and a half ago, and they're talking about one-seat rides now. How can we get use anywhere with one seat versus two? And it was an interesting conversation. So,
The problem is, for the one-seat ride, is there's not, the tunnels can't handle the additional traffic that would be created, which is why our seat ends right now in Newark.
Right.
Because Newark already has the lanes into Penn Station and has the space allotted to them. We've not had space allotted to us, so we've had off-hour one-seat rides, but there's not enough ridership for that, so they actually backed off on that again. I think we would have much higher ridership if, one, we had an express train and we had the one seat into New York. It's a 3-hour trip if you go from
Right.
High Bridge to New York City by train.
right.
It's an hour and a half, give or take, by bus from
So-
Clinton.
So we've been going to the Giants since 1985. And I used to drive and park in a lot. Now they charge you, no matter where you park in a lot or out at, it's called Secaucus Junction, exit
Right.
Yep.
17. It's still $30 to park. Little Giants, I don't know how they come up with these prices. They haven't moved in 3 or 4 years. Getting in from Secaucus Junction, I think, typifies this problem. I can get the Giant Stadium in 8 minutes. It's great. I get out and I go sit in my seat. I'm in my seat 10 minutes after I go. Coming the other way, they can only take a train into that station every 10 or 12 minutes because they have to get the people off the platform before they can back it out and bring
Right.
it. They can't even move the train out to let
Right.
people up off the platform. So it takes a good hour. Mark was with me one time. It just takes a haul to get back out. And the thing that amazed me was we drive there because we really don't want to pay a year in advance for parking because we only go to 2 or 3 games. They either sell or give the rest of the tickets away in the course of a year. So why pay for the whole year? But when I get off at Secaucus Junction, I'm going down in my car. 99% of the other people are going to another train and going further, which is the design of,
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
light rail, but rail. We need more of that. It's
Yes.
just that the infrastructure isn't there. We're still going that Portal Bridge. I went over that in the 60s when I first started working in New York, and it was falling apart then, so I could imagine what it's like today. So I think transportation as an infrastructure is a huge problem. But I think also, in my mind, putting this many affordable housing units in 1 square mile radius of this intersection that we talked about has got to be impactful.
I listen, I'm not going to tell you it's not going to be impactful. Traffic on 78 is horrible on
Right.
a good day. And if the minute there's an accident, the town of Clinton stops.
Exactly.
31 backs up, 22 backs up, 78 backs up. Every road in the town itself backs up, even if it has no access to another road,
Right.
because people are just looking for another way to get around.
I can remember I worked at Clinton and Wycott and Clinton for years, and would sit at a desk and I'd watch traffic would be stopped. This is 78 must be dead.
Mhm. Yes.
And now I use OnStar in my car, and it just tells you to reroute you if there's traffic. And I saw some of the towns by the George Washington Bridge had it. It was illegal to drive through their towns. I don't know how you enforce that, but we haven't rebuilt the infrastructure.
No,
And we-
it's something that's got to be done. It is sorely in need of updating. It's probably one of my biggest frustrations. You know, as mayors of towns, we're responsible for our infrastructure, and we have to ensure that our infrastructure is maintained from a health and public safety perspective. But at the county and state level, those same things aren't necessarily done. It's they push it off to the next. They push it off to the next, and ultimately, you're going to pay twice if you had you done it the right way the first time.
If not more.
Band-Aids don't work.
No.
That's my soapbox. Sorry.
There you go. No,
I'm sorry.
I can't say
I
blame it.
irritated a few people just now, but that's okay.
So
Yeah, I think the county does a good job on the roadways compared to,
Transportation.
well, transportation, different
Yeah.
But
I'm just
eventually
talking
you're
about
going to hit a
that
bottle.
kind
But
of
we do need to
infrastructure.
address the fact that you can't go from Clinton to Flemington unless you have 3 hours to spend.
You mean Clinton to New York?
No, Clinton to Flemington on public transportation.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, Janice. Yeah. I'm focused on
Yes.
roadways and road traffic capacity and whatnot.
There may be a bus service that would pick you up and drop you off, but that's the only exception.
And how
because-
long does that take?
Right. So you got to go where everybody else wants to go,
Right.
and you're not going on your schedule. I think the thing, and Route 31 exemplifies it best, that we keep sitting is eventually you're going to hit a bottleneck. They redid 31 for 10 miles. It cost me free windshields when I first moved down here for rocks being thrown. And you still get to a bridge and it goes back to one lane
Right.
again. So in, out, in,
Well, I
out.
like what Marsha Caro said. You know, it took him 5 or 10 years to make a mess out of it. We should tell them never come back. They need to, fix that railroad bridge. I simply don't understand why we still have a single lane stretch just coming up, going north into Reddington over the bridge. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't. And as far as the Army Corps of Engineers who are, believe it or not, working out of Clinton. I think it's Clinton. Right behind the Clinton Diner, there's a rented space
Union
building.
Township.
Is that you? Okay, so they're in the next county, township. But they have half the top floor in that because I was trying to market that building. So we talked first about what I wanted to talk about last. So let's talk about things we haven't talked about, because I think affordable housing is near and dear to everybody, but we could probably sit here and talk for 3 hours about it and not scratch the surface.
Yeah.
Probably.
Enough said is I think most people think it should happen, but not exactly in their backyard, and that's worldwide. It's
I think
not
that's
just
housing overall. No one wants
Yeah.
housing in their backyard when they're
Right.
looking at, a forest or they're looking at the deer
Yeah.
hanging out.
Yep.
No one wants to look into someone else's backyard.
But we're short on things in both Clinton and Clinton Township. One is senior housing. I mean, do we have any senior housing at all on the books for either?
We have the 10 units that will
The
be
10.
as part of our affordable
Right.
project, but that's, you also, the other piece of it is developers will tell you that they can't rent affordable units or age-restricted units, that, someone may come in because they're restricted with kids, or they'll agree to it, and then if it's not fully rented, they want some sort of easement with regards to taxes or whatever.
Yeah, with the tax credit financing, you can only get 25%. There's a cap at 25% in the
Well,
number of
affordable gives you a
senior-
25% cap.
Yeah.
You can't exceed 25% of your affordable housing can't be, more than that can't be senior.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
But
what I mean,
we-
but as a matter of fact, though, I think you're going to find there'll be a significant number of older people that are on limited incomes or
Yes.
fixed incomes that will end up in the affordable housing even without that designation.
Right.
So I think it will answer
By
a
default.
lot
some.
of those difficulties.
And they are moving towards rental. I mean, we rent today.
Sure.
I mean, I'm a real estate agent. When I sold a house on Blue Cliff, I said, let's rent for a year till we decide what we want to do. And it's 10 years later, and I'm still
Well, the
renting.
affordable, you almost have to.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult to
To
qualify for mortgages
Right.
in a lot of times. And then someone is stuck with the unit. At least from a rental perspective, they're able to just pay the rent. When they move out, you move someone in. You're not trying to qualify for a mortgage.
But I've got people, I have one couple I'm working with, they live in Alexandria, probably 600,000 house in Alexandria, which is diminishing because it's too far.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to either be in Four Seasons in Red Bank, what's it called? Branch?
Branchburg?
No, what's
North
down?
Branch?
Oh, Long Branch.
Long Branch.
Right. No, Reddington. There's Four Seasons, if you go down 523.
Oh,
to
that's
the
sold out. Is that the restricted age housing?
Restricted
Yeah,
age, but
that-
free market.
That's sold out in a
Yes.
twinkle.
Yeah. So it's sold out?
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
long time ago.
The point I was getting to, we can't find anything in the price range of people that are that age want to buy. They want to buy in the 3s to 4s, and there's just nothing available. You have to go to Toll Brothers. We looked in there with people and ourselves, and you can't really get, if you really want a front door and a nice lot and a basement, it's 600 plus. So why
Right.
not stay where you're at? I mean, to keep all that up.
Well, that'll be the MOBIS, will
Right.
be those types of units, similar to the Beaverbrook,
Mhm.
the larger Beaverbrook units, 2,400 square feet.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
Interesting.
Westgate products are in the low 4s, mid 4s, and they're nicely furnished inside.
Mm-hmm.
And the Westgate?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
where I'm in. I'm in Westgate. And Westgate's got that front issue. There's a class action suit going on, it sounds like, but
But
the one
again-
that's up the hill is called the Masters, and it's
Yeah.
the same development, a year newer. But the nice ones, I'm in the largest that's in there, and they're selling about $450.
Yeah.
So,
And-
but there's none available, because see, that's the issue, even though they're reaching market point, there's none available, because
Well,
everybody's looking
again,
for it.
maybe I'm looking at the positive side of things too much, but the 400-unit project above the Annandale train station, 26%, 104 units are affordable, and they're going to be rentals. There'll be a mix, I believe, of, we've let that to the developer, but there'll be townhomes, and there'll be, multi-unit buildings that, are basically for sale. So it's a mix of rentals and owned dwellings up there.
But not focused, but could be seniors.
I think would appeal to seniors. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
You
I
get to-
think,
There's two levels of seniors, 55 to 65, they don't care if it's multi-floor. You get over 65, you're starting to think towards one floor. So I'm thinking towards the one
Do
floor.
not tell me I'm gonna be a senior next year, so I'm telling you right now.
I couldn't spell it 10 years ago, now I are one. And you know what, it's not so bad. It's sort of fun. We looked, because we walked down to Clinton for breakfast on Sunday mornings a lot of times, at those lots that got bought by, I'm trying to think what his name is, Hendershot. So I looked, they were $250 a lot. I think he bought them for $225 a lot. So I called him. I said, I'd like to put a house up. What are you talking about? And he said, okay, you want 1,800 square foot, 2-car garage, half a basement. We're probably just touching 6, and we haven't done the amenities yet. And I'm saying, I can't do it. I mean, that's nuts. He said, yeah, but it was city sewer, city water. There's no land left in Clinton. He disagrees with you, but he paid for it. Now he's had a tough time selling the first one that went up.
Is it sold yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I still see it advertised. And we were looking at the second lot because we wanted to be a little embedded, but you have to traverse the first lot to get back there.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Craig Ort, was thinking about it too. And I said, Craig, that it isn't the house, the lot in front of the house that's up. It's the lot on the side of the house. It's backing to dead land back there. I don't think there's a street back there.
No.
So it became impossible to build, but I don't want to dwell on this. Let's talk about what is it what are your objectives for this year together and separately, just so that our listeners can understand the hot spots.
I think together it's more about just making sure the communication stays open.
Yeah.
You know, anytime I get a request from a Clinton Township resident, because they don't necessarily understand, they just see
Right.
I'm on social media or I get an email, and I make sure I get them right over to John, and he does the same thing. So I think for us it's communication.
yeah, it's it ought to be pretty seamless. And it's nice that the towns are kind of complementary. Janice is almost a small city,
Right.
and we're like a highway town. And, the lot sizes are larger, they're more spread out. Since we've opted into Highlands, the lot sizes are going to be, very large for a single-family home as compared to Clinton. So, we work very well together. It's not like we're competitive or anything of that sort,
No.
because we're such different
Maybe
kinds
for
of
some
towns.
businesses every once in a while we might compete.
I'd love to have a hotel, room tax, not a liquor license.
I got 2 of them.
We sat here when he was still mayor, and I had Phil Greiner on, and we were talking about why the Aldi isn't in downtown Flemington versus out in a mall. I mean, that would have been and the answer was parking.
Right.
You have the same issue. There is ample parking, but people don't know where it is. And it's,
Well, not only that, but when you go to a mall, you're willing to park a mile away from the mall.
right.
When you go downtown, you want to park right in front of the place you want to go to, because we have our municipal lot, which is never full,
Right.
and then we've got the Water Street lot. We've got the fire department does fill up, usually pretty frequently, and then Lower Center Street lot. But people will drive around and around to try to get right in front of where they want to park, and it's changing the behavior. So we're trying to figure out how to be walkable. How do
Right.
we create that walkability? And granted, part of it when you're parking at the municipal building is crossing over Old 22, which some people don't pay attention to the road signs.
Right.
That's something we need to work on with DOT, but we want to make it walkable. We want to make it so that people feel safe and feel comfortable and enjoy that opportunity to get a few steps in. Everyone's got a smartwatch or a Fitbit or something.
Right, I mean, it's amazing what we can do anymore.
Right.
I just met one of your finest men in blue, not knowing you couldn't turn right on Lee Street anymore.
No right on red.
And he said, he stopped me down by the bridge, and I said, officer, I lived there 20 years. I've been turning there for 20 years.
Right.
He says, the last 6 months, there's a sign that's that big. And
Right.
he's absolutely correct, but I didn't get a ticket. I got a citation, thank God.
Right.
He was kind. I think the walkability is key because with the advent, Mark tells me we're getting millennials back to the area. I don't know if you agree.
I think we're starting to.
Yeah, it's the beginnings. Yeah.
They're not the ones that left, though, typically. I think they're new people coming out for quality of life.
They're coming out because of the school systems.
Correct.
They're ready to start their families, or they have young families, and,
Right.
and they want to, they want to their kids to experience that
Right.
local community feel.
So I my office is in Warren Watchung, but I live in Clinton. I do everything in between. And the reason I moved my office over there is that there's more of an up-end market over there. But it's interesting that we have people coming to here because they cannot. I find people in Bridgewater that can't find what they're looking for $450, and Bridgewater is huge. It's probably 40%. I'm on the diversion committee in Somerset County, but I would say it's 40% Indian at this point, or Asian. Let's just say Asian in general. And they're outbidding each other, and I'm saying, get in a car and follow me for 5 miles, and I will find you a really nice house, but you're going to drive 10 minutes more each way. So I find people can't find in Somerset County what they're looking for and bring them into Hunterdon County. I must do that 6 times a year with couples. Other people are looking at the opposite, like this couple from Alexandria just wants to get back more center. He wants to be near ICC Church. He wants to be in something that can be converted to a first floor master when needed. And he wants to be in it. He doesn't have to be 55 plus. So my kids say to me, my kids are all over 50 at this point, they said, why would you want to be surrounded with old people? You don't think like old people. And I think they're absolutely correct. But I don't want to be in a house as a senior that I have to do anything outside. That's why I'm still renting. I mean, I had the prettiest house up there and it's like, it owned us.
Right.
It owned us, and it was $17,000 taxes. So the walkability and the quality of life is key, because that's what's bringing people out here. And in my mind, and I sort of springboard off of what Professor Hughes said, is that technology will bring people back. The ease in working out of your house again.
Yes.
I think 5G eventually, it's going to take a while. I just bought a new phone and I can get 5G because we won't see it for a year or two, because
Right.
it was extra and even extra a month. But he says it's going to be self-driving cars. I've sort of reinvented the equation after watching some of the 5G technology, where you put this little gadget on each car. It would be impossible to bump into each other as long as you have one on your car, if you have a 5G app on your car. And I'm saying, well, take it another level. Let's take what used to be HOV lanes and let's take it into 5G lanes and say you have to be 5G even to get in. And now we can go 100 miles an hour from New York to here. And forget driving individual cars. Why don't we have tandem buses that take 80 people from downtown New York out to our area in 15, 20 minutes? That will bring it. So technology, I think, will bring it back.
It
But
could, yeah.
it's going to take a while.
Right.
And the car I bought has self-parking on it, and I'm a fairly technical person. I'm afraid to try it. And, it's a change.
Right.
Much less self-driving. So
Yeah, I don't know that I could get into the self-driving thing. I don't know that I could get
That
into
would
a
be tough,
self-driving car.
yeah.
they had a picture, somebody was asleep in a Tesla yesterday. They took the picture and called the police and said, this guy is dozed off, and he had it on self-drive. And I'm saying, that's scary.
It is.
Because it's just like, and I'd like to cover a little bit about the cannabis thing. It's just like what's going to happen when you can't govern things. And one of the things I set through in Somerset County was a conversation on cannabis and how we can't yet test for it. So you could test for somebody who was drunk, but you can't yet test accurately if somebody
You
is
can't do a
high.
breathalyzer on it.
Right.
Blood work only. Well, the other piece of it is cannabis stays in your system for
30 days.
30
at
up to
least.
30 days at least. So, if you had whether you ingested it or smoked it, a month ago, 3 weeks ago, what happens if you get chosen for a random drug test?
Right. I know my son was in the Navy, and he said they have the Not in My Navy, Mr. program, and that was just that.
Yeah.
You had a test when you got on a boat at random, and you're out of the Navy. No questions asked.
Well, I think there's still a lot. I mean, most businesses have some sort of random drug testing, especially if you're operating equipment.
Mm-hmm.
That's another whole, we could go down the rabbit hole with the cannabis industry and where it's going to go. It's probably coming, but until we get a commission and some rules promulgated, I'm kind of...
We're in the same boat.
Yeah.
We don't know really what it is at this point in time.
So it seems to be stuck in politics at the Trenton level.
Well, they have to do the appointments to the commission, and I can't remember. The governor signed the expanded medical bill July 3rd, and I believe it was 60 days to appoint the commission members.
I think you're right.
And he has 3 of the 5 appointments that he can do without the Senate approval, at least for this go-around.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have 18 months to promulgate the rules.
Okay.
So you're still looking at 2 years before we're potentially even going to have, what is it going to look like to any of us? The applications were due for licenses August 21st, 22nd, somewhere around there. And they only expanded to 6 additional licenses, 2 for each of the regions. So...
Is there anything proposed for Clinton Township at this point?
No.
So it's beyond sight, but it's like building a affordable housing. It's 4 years in advance at least, so.
Yeah, this is one of those topics that you can get philosophical on, and I was talking to a reporter who was asking some questions about it. I said, you're trying to change 60 years of behavior in 60 days.
Right.
So, yes, there are liquor licenses everywhere. There's liquor stores, and people can walk in and out. You can go into a drugstore and get an opioid prescription and open it right there and take a pill. All of these things come into play. What does it look like? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really want to be the test case.
I hear you.
I think
So,
better to wait, not be first on this.
yeah.
Well, and I think, I know you were there, I'm not sure you were, because you introduced Chris Christie at the Annandale Firehouse.
No, not me.
No?
That was
I was the
you.
lucky guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was ignored.
And, okay, then they mentioned your green hair, I remember you being.
I had purple hair.
Purple hair.
That was purple, not
But
green.
I disagree with as much as I agree with him. But he said, I thought was a great analyzation. It's not on my watch. We just don't know enough about this yet. And I thought that was a reasonable explanation. Of course, he was within sight at the end of term. But
You hear good stuff, bad stuff about Denver, Colorado. The jury is really out. And
The closest to us is Massachusetts, probably.
there you go.
And at the league, there will be probably a couple of mayors from Massachusetts that will provide some insight into how it's working there, what's working for them, what's not working for them. I mean, I really think we just need to take best practices from everywhere
Right.
and figure out what works for each of us. The beauty of New Jersey is that we are home rule, so this is something that we can opt out of. If our community chooses that we are not an appropriate location, that's our decision, and no one can force us otherwise. I don't know that that's always the case everywhere.
Mhm.
So from that perspective, I'm grateful that we have that ability. It's going to be, who knows? I'm trying to educate myself as much as possible. I spend a great deal of time asking questions. I've been to dispensaries in Colorado. I've been to policy people in Colorado. Same thing in California. Just to understand what it means, what it's done, how it impacts the community. I mean, you can go anywhere, almost anywhere in Colorado, and you'll see some sort of a dispensary. Now, they bifurcate the medical from the recreational. California, it's not bifurcated. You show your ID to make sure you're 21, and then it's just when you go to pay whether or not you pay tax or not. If you have a medical card, you don't.
So let's talk about retail for a minute. Is there anything new retail-wise? I know the new hotel going up, I think, is going to have an Olive Garden in it.
No,
No?
not anymore.
I
It was not, as of right now, no. I think they're in discussions about doing something else.
Is
Yeah,
that
adjacent.
considered Clinton? Then?
That is the town.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So
So it's not going to be all.
stay
in
tuned.
Clinton.
We'll see what that's going to be.
Okay, very good. Anything else new happening? Retail-wise, not just food, but in general?
We've had an interest in distillery on one of our parcels, and I understand the gentleman is looking at 2 locations in the county, us and Alexandria.
What's going up next to the meat market there at 22 and that looks
That's Lebanon Borough,
right.
and that is a
Craft brew.
microbrewery.
It is going to be
Yeah.
a microbrewery. I think it's going to be a traffic problem, but whatever.
Nah.
Nah?
No more
Oh,
so than it already is.
Wow.
Mark has a great business in metropolitan food.
The one they put on downtown Somerville, we did a chamber event over there last week or the week before. It's amazing. It must have $5 million in the place. I mean,
Really?
it's huge. It's an old Woolworth store, so it goes very deep. Must be 10,000 square feet at least, maybe 20. And it's got all of this stainless steel, and they're keeping the brewed stuff downstairs. I was impressed with the investment in it. So, and then I understand there's one in Franklin Township as well at this point in time. So it's like, I don't drink, so it doesn't matter, but it's big.
But that's what draws the millennials and the younger families, because they're looking for something that they can go
Right.
to. And if it's a family-friendly place, that's the one thing in Colorado. We were just there for my daughter's wedding. All of the breweries, the craft brews, have outdoor play areas. You bring your kids, you bring your dogs. There's food trucks. It's just, it's a great experience for the entire family. It's not just, the impression that there's a bunch of people sitting around getting drunk.
I mean, how often have we heard, there's nothing to do out here?
Right. Well, that's what they
Too
did in
frequently.
Vegas. Look what they did. The kids are out back playing on the toys, and mom and dad are losing their kids' college money inside. So,
Yeah, we're not doing that, but we'll find something.
so 30 seconds left each. What didn't we cover that you'd like to?
Oh, well, development in our case, I think we're finally going to see the old Muni building up for final planning board approval shortly. I'm told the plans are nearly through the compliance process. It's got preliminary approval.
Okay.
And I dearly, dearly want to see that cleaned up. And hopefully, sometime in the next couple of months, we'll see that approved. And when the weather breaks in the spring, we'll see
And
some
where
work.
is that geographically?
This is right in the center of Annandale Village. It's next to the Reformed Church on the corner
Okay.
of West Street and Beaver Avenue.
So just before you get to where the solar farm area is.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Great.
And
Janice?
that'll really clean up, I think, Annandale very nicely. Juniper Hill, the affordable housing project, and then the old Muni
And
building.
it'll be a nice touch that's going on up the hill. How
Yeah.
much of up the hill is approved at this point?
The zoning is approved.
Okay.
They need the first step there is center designation on the part of Highlands, approvals from DEP for the utilities, and then they can begin to think about coming to the planning board.
Okay, so we're a year or two away before
Yeah,
breaking
at
ground.
least, yeah.
And Janice, on your end, what didn't we cover?
I think we just pretty much covered everything. And really, always my ultimate goal is anyone's got questions to reach out.
Right.
We try to make ourselves available and answer whatever questions we can.
Well, good. And they're both public record people. If you want to talk to John or Janice, their name and numbers and emails are all in the phone.
Yep.
All over.
All online. I know half the time I asked Janice if we could do something together, and she's saying, I'm still answering snowplow problems from last year.
Yeah.
So, and the garbage issue was a big issue. I
It's all
think.
done. Garbage is
Oh,
fixed.
glad we're done with that.
Oh, thankfully.
So Premier overtook what was...
Republic took over Premier.
And Premier had taken over Casper.
Premier had taken over. And funny story is I ran into Jane Casper
That's
one
Ma-
day.
That's Marilyn's
and
cousin. I haven't seen her since her
she was
dad
up
died.
in Florida
Okay.
for a couple of days, and we had the whole conversation. She was entertained by our garbage debacle.
I imagine she would be. I remember her and Russ fretting about, well, sooner or later somebody's going to buy it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, Russ passed prematurely. But well, thank you for coming on. We'll have to do it again on
Absolutely.
a periodic basis. I think it's just a great forum to let our listeners know what's happening in Clinton and Clinton Township, and at the same time that hopefully they've learned something that they didn't know before they tuned in. And then secondly, if there's more questions, how to get in touch with you. Thank you
Absolutely.
for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
One of the biggest decisions in your lifetime is buying or selling a house. Choosing a realtor with strong client communication, technology, and marketing skills will dramatically improve your chance of success. That's why Hunterdon and Somerset's residents rely on Joe Peters. Joe believes his clients deserve a smooth and seamless experience, not a roller coaster ride. As a Coldwell Banker sales associate with 20 years of experience, he's helped hundreds of people to achieve their goals and dreams, no matter where they were in the buying or selling process. Joe accomplishes this by approaching every transaction from a business perspective. Initially, he tries to fully understand your goals and dreams and make them his own. Then he takes the mass amount of data that's available and distills it down to a few understandable action points. And finally, he controls the entire process through technology and marketing. The end result to you is a smooth, rewarding customer experience. Let Joe show you how to take his professional expertise and put it to work for you. To contact Joe, go to jpeters.com or call 908-238-0118.